If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And for a goal as important as financial independence, that's not acceptable. So today, I'm going to set my financial goals to make sure I'm on track.
I'm the fireman, and I'm trying to reach financial independence before I turn 30 years old. But how do I know if I'm on track to reach a goal that far off and that ambitious? Well, by setting good financial goals. In other words, by having a plan.
Despite what some of the most popular financial influencers say, financial independence doesn't happen overnight. Even if you're extremely frugal and have a good job, it'll still probably take around a decade. For a lot of people, it'll take even longer than that.
And that's why you need a plan. I mean, you don't spend 10 years of your life pursuing something without looking at the directions first. You look at a map. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm building a map to financial independence.
And look, goal setting can be really hard. I mean, if it was easy, I wouldn't be making this entire video just to go through my own goal setting process. So before I get into setting my goals, I want to talk about the pitfalls that I'm trying to avoid.
If you set a goal that's too far away, it's tough to stay focused on it. And that's why it's not enough just to say I want to reach financial independence. Even though I'm trying to reach it as fast as I can, it'll still take a long time to get there.
And sure, it's not like I want to think about reaching financial independence every second of every day. That would be unhealthy. But that's also kind of the problem.
That's because the more time I'm not thinking about financial independence, the more likely it is that I'll make a decision that doesn't help me get where I want to be. So I don't want to just set one goal that feels so insurmountable and then just forget about it. Of course, setting short-term goals isn't enough either. If I'm only looking a month in advance, it'll be hard to keep the end goal in mind.
It's like swimming in a current. If you put your head down and swim as hard as you can, you might look up eventually and realize that you're no longer going where you thought you were going.
And it's not even just the time frame. The difficulty of the goal is also really, really important. If you don't see early success, it's easy to get discouraged early, but the last thing you want to do is give up on a goal that is this important. On the other hand, easy goals just don't push you enough. For example, you could set a goal to save, say, 5% of your income. But the problem is, even if you reach that goal, you won't reach financial independence very quickly. Now, if that's the best you can do, you should still do it. But you want to make sure you're actually pushing yourself.
For example, to reach financial independence by the time I would like to, I need to save around 50% of my income. So 5% just isn't going to cut it. Either way, instead of trying to make one goal that isn't too far off and isn't too close and isn't too difficult and isn't too easy, I'm just not going to set a goal. I'm going to set lots of goals. To me, the most important thing is reaching financial independence. So that's going to be my first goal. Even though I'm going to set a ton of other goals to help me reach that, I need to make sure they're super aligned with this one overarching mission.
But to make this goal less abstract and actually achievable, I need to define financial independence. And for that, I'm going to rely on the 4% rule of thumb, which says that once you have about 25 times your annual expenses as invested assets, you're probably financially independent. That converts this intangible goal of financial independence into a real number. For me, that's about $500,000, so I'm going to use that moving on. By the way, the one problem with this approach is that while I already have my expenses in a place I like them, most people don't. So it might take a lot of money to support your current lifestyle, but if you'll be reducing your expenses, that might not be the real target. So you can either estimate how much you need or just continuously refine this figure. And as inflation affects how much I spend, I know I'll have to adjust my figure as well. But for right now, I'm just going to set $500,000 as this North Star objective and use that as I'm going towards financial independence.
With this big picture and goal in mind, I'm going to set some milestones. And I'm going to take a New Year's resolutions approach, really just because a year is a convenient time frame to track progress.
Since I need $500,000 by the time I'm 30 to retire, I can do a simple calculation to set yearly targets. I just take $500,000, divide by 8, and that means I need $62,500 every year. After 8 years of work, I'd have $500,000.
And just before you go running to do this calculation for yourself, just a word of caution. You should know this is actually an extremely pessimistic way to set goals.
That's because this approach completely ignores two things. First, it ignores higher salaries later in your career. I'm hoping that the amount of money that I'm making yearly right before I reach financial independence will be a lot more than I'm making right now. Second, this ignores compound investment returns. The rate of growth of money actually goes up exponentially with time. So as you reach financial independence, your money might be growing faster and faster.
So this isn't a perfect way to set goals, and if you're a long way from financial independence, this could actually make a really big difference. That's because the growth of your wealth should accelerate. It shouldn't just grow at a constant rate over time. And this naive approach doesn't take that into account.
Still, this strategy is simple enough for me, and I actually like the pessimism because it ensures that I stay motivated and keep working hard. So there are a lot of other ways you could do this, but let's move on. So right now we have yearly targets, a sort of New Year's resolution. And that's great, but I don't really like New Year's resolutions just as a goal. What matters to me is whether I achieved what I set last year. These are more of checkpoints.
So I have a North Star objective, I have milestones to check my progress, but what I need is objectives and challenges to make sure I'm on track on a day-to-day basis.
Complacency could completely derail your path to financial independence. I can't let that happen. It's these short term objectives and challenges that'll keep me motivated. Every one of these little objectives and challenges should help you reach one of your yearly milestones. And if you hit all of your yearly milestones, you should reach financial independence when you've predicted.
These little objectives could be anything. They could even be just holding yourself to a routine, like saving a certain percentage of your paycheck every time. But you can also use these objectives to push yourself. Maybe save 5% more of your next paycheck than your last one, or maybe commit to cutting out an expense for a certain period of time.
Now, I'm not going to write down 8 years of these little objectives and challenges. I'll actually generate them as I go. But for just one example, next month I'd like to keep my food budget under $200. Depending on how easy or difficult that is, I'll adjust from there.
They might seem insignificant on their own, but hey, that's why we have the milestones. And if these daily objectives and challenges aren't helping you reach your milestones, then you need to adjust these smaller goals. And hey, hopefully this doesn't have to be said, but there's not one way to set goals. I just wanted to walk you through my process, and this is how I think about goals. If you want to do it in another way, that's totally fine. In fact, if you've got a method for goal setting that you really like, could you put it in the comments so I and other people can try it? That'd be great.
But what I'm getting at is that I don't really care how you do it. What matters is that you do it at all. Financial independence will take a long time, so having a process to stay motivated and focused is super important.
But setting goals is just the first step. There's so much more to actually reaching financial independence. So that's why if you aren't subscribed, maybe, just maybe, you should be. And hey, one last thing. You don't have to keep financial independence for yourself. In fact, you shouldn't. To see why everyone should pursue financial independence, you need to watch this video right here. And hey, to help that goal, maybe drop a like for the algorithm. Thanks so much.